3 months ago, our power-hungry HOA president Patricia banned backyard bonfires that families had enjoyed for 15 years. She thought she could bully us into submission with $500 fines. She was wrong. We invited the fire chief to our next meeting, and what happened next was pure justice. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Let me tell you about the time our neighborhood HOA tried to ruin our favorite summer tradition. This is how we fought back and won the most satisfying victory I have ever experienced. It all started 3 months ago when I got a letter in my mailbox. You know the kind. That crisp white envelope with the HOA logo that makes your stomach drop before you even open it. I stood there in my driveway holding my mail, dreading what was inside. Violation notice, it read in bold red letters. My heart sank into my stomach. Dear Mr. Johnson, it has come to our attention that you have been conducting illegal bonfire activities on your property. Please be advised that all open fires are now strictly prohibited within Meadowbrook Estates as of the new community guidelines effective immediately. Failure to comply will result in fines starting at $500 per violation. Sincerely, Patricia Hensworth, HOA President. I stared at that letter like it was written in a different language. Illegal bonfire activities? I have been having small backyard bonfires with my neighbors for 15 years. Every Friday night during summer we gather around my fire pit, roast marshmallows, and let our kids run around while we adults finally get a chance to relax from the week. These were not massive blazes. We are talking about a controlled fire in a proper fire pit, surrounded by stones with a garden hose nearby. My neighbor Steve is a retired firefighter, and he taught all of us proper fire safety. We were more careful than most people grilling burgers. But apparently, Patricia Hensworth had decided our harmless tradition was a threat to society. I marched over to my neighbor Dave's house, letter crumpled in my fist. Dave was watering his flowers when I showed up. Did you get one too? I asked, waving the paper. His face told me everything. Yeah man, this is crazy. We have never had a single problem. Within an hour, I walked around the neighborhood and discovered that 12 families had received the same violation notice. 12 families who had been safely enjoying backyard fires for years. That is when I met Mrs. Rodriguez, an elderly woman who lived 3 streets over. She was sitting on her front porch, looking defeated, the same letter in her lap. They want to stop my fire pit too, she said sadly. My late husband built that pit with his own hands 30 years ago. Every Sunday my children and grandchildren come over, and we make s'mores and tell stories. It is the only time we are all together. Her eyes were watery, and I felt something fierce rise up in my chest. This was not just about my Friday night gatherings anymore. This was about community, tradition, and some power-hungry HOA president trying to control every part of our lives. This is not over, I told Mrs. Rodriguez. We are going to fight this. That night I started doing research. I dug through city rules, fire codes, and HOA bylaws until my eyes burned. What I found made my blood boil. There was no new city rule banning fire pits. There was no change in fire safety regulations. Patricia Hensworth had made this rule up on her own, without any input from the community or even the rest of the HOA board. But here is the kicker. According to our HOA's own governing documents, any new rule affecting this many homeowners required a community vote. She had completely bypassed the process. I called an emergency meeting with all the affected neighbors for that weekend. We met in Dave's backyard, ironically around his fire pit. As we sat there, sharing our frustrations, I could see the same determination in everyone's faces that I felt in my heart. So what is the plan? Asked Jennifer, a mom of 3 whose kids loved our Friday night gatherings. We are going to the next HOA meeting, I said. And we are going to be prepared. You think Patricia will listen to reason? Steve asked doubtfully. As our neighborhood's retired firefighter, he was particularly offended by the implication that our fires were unsafe. Probably not, I admitted. But I have an idea. Over the next 2 weeks I put my plan into action. First, I contacted Fire Chief Martinez at our local fire department. I explained the situation and asked if he would be willing to come to our HOA meeting to discuss fire pit safety. You know, he said, we get calls about HOA overreach all the time. These boards think they know better than trained professionals. I would be happy to set the record straight. Next, I researched Patricia Hensworth. What I found was a pattern of bossy behavior. She had been HOA president for 8 years, and in that time she had banned holiday decorations, restricted the types of plants people could grow, and even tried to dictate what color people could paint their front doors. But she had never faced organized opposition before. Most people just paid the fines and moved on. Not this time. I also discovered something interesting. Patricia lived in the most expensive house in the neighborhood, but she did not have a backyard fire pit. She had never participated in any of our community gatherings. She seemed to enjoy making rules for things she did not understand or care about. I spent hours preparing my case. I printed out the HOA bylaws, the city fire codes, and documentation showing that our fire pits were completely legal. I also prepared a timeline showing how Patricia had implemented this rule without following proper procedures. Dave helped me contact every affected family. We made sure everyone understood what was happening and encouraged them to come to the meeting. Mrs. Rodriguez was especially motivated. She had been in this neighborhood longer than anyone, and she was not going to let some newcomer destroy her family traditions. Steve, our retired firefighter, was furious about the safety implications. I have been fighting fires for 30 years, he told me. These backyard fire pits are safer than most barbecue grills. This is just a power trip. The week before the meeting, I got another letter from Patricia. This one threatened immediate legal action if I did not stop organizing resistance to HOA rules. That letter was a big mistake on her part. It showed she knew about our planned opposition, and it made her look like a dictator. I shared Patricia's threatening letter with all our neighbors. People who had been on the fence about attending the meeting suddenly became very interested in coming. Nobody likes being threatened for standing up for their rights. The night before the meeting, I could not sleep. I kept going over my presentation, making sure I had everything right. My wife found me in the kitchen at 2 a.m. reviewing my notes. "You are going to do great," she said. "Patricia has pushed people around for too long. It is time someone stood up to her." The night of the HOA meeting, I was nervous but ready. Dave, Steve, Mrs. Rodriguez, and 15 other neighbors came with me. We also had a special guest, Fire Chief Martinez in full uniform. The meeting was held in the community center. Usually only about 10 people showed up to these meetings. Patricia liked it that way because she could control everything. Tonight was different. Nearly 40 people packed into that room. Patricia's face when she saw us all walk in was priceless. Her usual smug expression faltered for just a moment before she composed herself. "Good evening," she said coldly. "I see we have more attendees than usual." "Yes," I replied, standing up. "We are here to discuss the fire pit ban." "There is nothing to discuss. The rule has been implemented for safety reasons." That is when Fire Chief Martinez stood up. "Actually, Mrs. Hensworth, I think there is quite a bit to discuss." You could have heard a pin drop. Patricia's face went white. "I am Fire Chief Martinez and I have been serving this community for 22 years. I understand you have banned backyard fire pits due to safety concerns." "That is correct," Patricia stammered. "Well, I have reviewed the situation and I have to say I am confused. These residents have been operating safe, controlled fires in proper fire pits for years. We have never had a single complaint or incident." He pulled out a folder. "In fact, I have documentation here showing that properly maintained fire pits, like the ones in this neighborhood, are completely legal and safe when used responsibly." Patricia's face was getting redder by the minute. "But fires are dangerous." "Mrs. Hensworth," the fire chief continued patiently, "do you have a gas grill?" "Well, yes, but that is different. Gas grills cause significantly more residential fires than properly maintained fire pits. Should we ban those too?" A few people chuckled and I could see Patricia realizing she was in over her head. But I was not done yet. "Chief Martinez, thank you for being here. Patricia, I have some other concerns about this ban." I pulled out my own folder. According to the HOA's governing documents, any new rule affecting more than 10 homeowners requires a community vote. This ban affects 12 families, yet there was no vote. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "I thought the board decided." "Actually," said Dave, "I spoke with board members Thompson and Lou. They said you never consulted them about this rule." Bob Thompson, one of the other board members, looked embarrassed. "Patricia told us it was just a minor safety update. We did not realize it would affect so many families." Mrs. Rodriguez stood up shakily. "My husband built our fire pit before this HOA even existed. You have no right to take away our family traditions." Her voice cracked and I saw several people in the room get emotional. Even some of Patricia's usual supporters looked uncomfortable. "Furthermore," I continued, "I have discovered that you have been collecting fines for violations of a rule that was never legally implemented. According to state law, that could be considered fraud." Now Patricia looked genuinely panicked. "I was just trying to keep everyone safe." Fire Chief Martinez spoke up again. "Mrs. Hensworth, if safety is your concern, I would be happy to provide fire safety education to the community. But banning safe, legal activities is not the answer. The room erupted in applause. I looked around at my neighbors. People who had felt powerless against Patricia's tyranny were finally seeing that we could fight back. I moved to overturn the fire pit ban, I announced. Seconded, called out at least 5 voices. Patricia tried to maintain control. This is not how we do things. Actually, it is, said Bob Thompson, who had finally found his voice. According to our bylaws, any homeowner can call for a vote on HOA rules. All in favor of overturning the fire pit ban. Hands shot up all around the room. Even some people who did not have fire pits raised their hands. They were apparently fed up with Patricia's bossy approach. All opposed. Only Patricia and 2 of her friends raised their hands. The motion passes, Bob announced. The fire pit ban is hereby overturned. The room erupted in cheers. Mrs. Rodriguez was crying happy tears. Steve was grinning from ear to ear. And Patricia looked like she had swallowed a lemon. But we were not finished. I have one more motion, Dave announced. I move that we implement a new rule requiring full HOA board approval for any new community regulations, and that Patricia Hensworth be removed as president for exceeding her authority. Seconded. I shouted. This vote was even more one-sided. Patricia was out. As people filed out of the meeting, Fire Chief Martinez approached our group. You folks handled that perfectly, he said. Too many people just accept overreach from these boards. It is refreshing to see citizens stand up for their rights. He handed me his card. If you ever want to organize that fire safety education program, give me a call. And feel free to invite me to one of your Friday night gatherings. I make excellent s'mores. That Friday night, we had the biggest bonfire gathering in our neighborhood's history. Word had spread about our victory, and neighbors who had never joined us before showed up with chairs and marshmallows. Mrs. Rodriguez brought her whole extended family. This is what community looks like, she said, watching her grandchildren roast marshmallows. Thank you for fighting for this. Steve, our retired firefighter, did an impromptu demonstration on fire safety for the kids. It turned into both an educational moment and entertainment. Even Fire Chief Martinez stopped by after his shift. True to his word, his s'mores were incredible. As I sat there watching my neighbors laugh and share stories around the fire, I realized something important. This victory was not really about fire pits. It was about community, about not letting bullies push people around, and about the power of ordinary people standing up for what is right. Patricia Hensworth had tried to take away something that brought us together. Something that created connections and memories. But instead of succeeding, her overreach had brought us closer together than ever. The new HOA board, led by Bob Thompson, has been fantastic. They actually listen to homeowners and focus on real issues like maintaining common areas and organizing community events. No more arbitrary rules. Patricia moved away about a month after the meeting. I heard she joined another HOA in the next town over and is trying to run for president there. I feel sorry for those poor people, but I also know that if they stand together like we did, they can handle her too. Every Friday night, as I watch the flames dance and listen to my neighbors laugh, I am reminded that the best things in life are worth fighting for. Sometimes all it takes is standing up to a bully, doing your homework, and bringing the right people to the right meeting at the right time. And sometimes, if you are really lucky, you get to see justice served with a side of perfectly toasted marshmallows. The fire pit ban was supposed to end our tradition. Instead, it made our community stronger than ever. Patricia Hensworth thought she had all the power, but she learned an important lesson that night. Real power belongs to the people who are willing to stand up and use it. 3 months have passed since that meeting. Our Friday night gatherings are bigger than ever. We have started a neighborhood watch program, organized block parties, and even created a community garden. All because we learned that when neighbors work together, we can accomplish anything. The fire safety education program that Chief Martinez suggested has become a monthly event. Kids and adults learn about fire safety while having fun. It has become another beloved neighborhood tradition. Bob Thompson has been an excellent HOA president. He sends out monthly newsletters asking for input on neighborhood issues. When new rules are needed, he makes sure everyone has a voice in the process. Last week, a new family moved into Patricia's old house. They seem nice, and they have already asked about joining our Friday night bonfires. I told them the story of how we saved our tradition, and they were amazed. You actually stood up to the HOA and won? The husband asked. We did not just win, I told him. We learned that ordinary people have more power than they think. They just have to be willing to use it. Now, if you will excuse me, it is Friday night and I have a fire to light. The marshmallows are not going to roast themselves, and Mrs. Rodriguez's grandchildren are waiting for their s'mores. This story is not just about bonfires or HOA boards. It is about what happens when a community decides to stand together against bullies and bureaucrats who forget they work for us, not the other way around. Sometimes the best victories come from the simplest acts of courage. Like reading the fine print, asking the right questions and refusing to back down when you know you are right.